Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. It's the PC
All the fun
podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 356, being recorded on July 1st, 2015. I'm Ryan Schrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrus.
And I'm Alan Valentano.
I'm so glad Skype didn't screw up again so that I didn't have to try to pretend to know what was going on anymore.
The Canadian packets are off today. It is a holiday up here after all.
It's right. It is Canada Day. What did you just celebrate Canada Day? Canada Day.
148 years as a country.
Congratulations.
After losing 2 wars,
Years for 150. I guess we went 3 days before you guys.
What did you do to celebrate Canada Day?
I drank beer.
They drank beer.
Did you go to work? Did you have to go to
Hell
work today?
no, it's a holiday.
Oh, wow.
You're
guys do
forcing me to work
See,
now.
you guys
It's
do
like 4th of
holidays.
July.
Yeah, but they observe the holidays on the day of the holiday.
Yeah.
We don't in this country.
Well, you would if
Sometimes.
it wasn't a Saturday.
Well, no, we're doing the observance of 4th of July on Friday. So,
Yeah.
meh, we're going to get a
Which
day
is
off
a lovely day
anyway.
at work because all the Americans will be off.
That's correct. So, and you guys just have to pick the July 1st just so you get it in just ahead of the United States. I get it. It's fine. My phone
also
is
have a better
currently, it's upgrading apps.
It's like Windows.
It's on 19 of 148. Well, it recompiles.
I know. It's just funny. It's like it's on update 19 of 140.
Yeah, it very much is like a Windows update.
It even has the spinny circle.
Sorry, you just have to wait for a while. So welcome to the show, everybody. I'm here. If you were here for the live part of it, it doesn't seem like it.
Yes, here. That requires more effort than you might think.
Yes. If you're wondering where I've been the last week, actually, I guess 3 weeks I've been spending in the hospital with my wife. I've been dressing like this a lot of the time. Can you want to bring up this computer real quick? There was one particular day that I dressed like this. I was a surgeon.
Yeah.
For one day.
Like a surgeon.
Hey.
The very first time.
Never mind.
I will admit openly and freely that those shoes, the what do you call them, the booties
Little
that I got on
booties,
there,
yeah.
Booties.
it took me
A while to get them over your big feet. Didn't
15.
they?
No, they were folded in half.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't realize they were folded
You
in
have to peel-
half.
you have to peel them
and it was
open.
like in my defense, it was very tightly folded.
So it's kind of like your
Yeah.
condom buys.
yeah,
Except,
you don't
yeah.
know that they're folded in half, and then
well,
all of a
actually,
sudden,
you never really noticed before.
Oh, that's not sad. The end result of me wearing all that clothing was this.
That thing.
This is my daughter. I have a daughter named Emmeline Grace, who was born 7.5 weeks early.
That's
He
pretty
calls
early.
her the xenomorph.
Yeah, exactly. This was a scary first night. She had this on this. It's adorable now. It was scary then, but now we get to keep the CPAP that she was on.
Oh.
Right, like this little thing that goes
little
over her
mask
nose. It's just
thing,
applying
yeah.
pressure. It's the same level of oxygen you would normally get, but
Yeah.
as a dad who had no idea what the hell was going on,
Uh-huh.
watching like 8 people kind of like poke and prod and take measurements from your
That's
child.
what happens right after the kid pops out.
Yeah, but it and then they rush her away into NICU and all
Whoa,
that stuff.
yeah.
So that was scary, but now she doesn't have to use that anymore. She now looks like
Oh,
this.
I hadn't seen that picture yet.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah.
And then this is her today, actually. If you're wondering why
Good Lord, she's backlit.
she looks like a glowworm.
It's aliens.
She had, I guess
Is that a Corsair blanket?
yeah.
That's Ilea from
That's
Dune.
awesome.
Did Maury mod that blanket?
Jaundice apparently is, I forget what enzyme it is in your body, but it needs to be.
Your liver doesn't break down bile.
Okay,
Yep.
and so sunlight would normally help that, but
Yeah.
obviously newborn babies can't be outside.
Right.
So this blue light, which is called a billy blanket, is
Bilirubin.
Yeah, which is what it is. And my new favorite thing to do at the hospitals is to look at all the equipment and like find the model numbers and look up how expensive they are.
Oh.
Just because I'm curious.
So how much is that blanket?
So the blanket alone, like just the part that illuminates blue through fiber optics, is about $7,800
Holy crap.
for that. And that
That's
doesn't
inexpensive at half the price.
right. And it doesn't include the machine that powers it on
Yeah.
the other
The
end.
UV light source.
Yeah. So that's it's fun to do. But now Kelly's home, wife's home.
Yep.
Baby's still at NICU, is going to be there for a little while, so my schedule is going to be a little bit jacked up, but
You have to go visit your kid.
I get to go visit my kid 40 minutes away.
Yeah. Wish it
Which
was
is-
the hospital right down the street. That would have been nicer.
Oh well, such is life. So that's what you have to look forward to is more pictures of my child. Before it was always pictures of my dogs.
Yes.
Now it's going to be that. So
Now
We'll
you
forgive you
replace
as long
the
as you
pictures
get
of the
hardware
dog.
specs of the devices saving your life as well.
yes.
Yes.
I am trying. Like there was one device. Like there's the containment. I want to say containment chamber that she's in, but it's isolation
It's
chamber.
like something out of like Half-Life or something.
It is again like the alien thing again that Josh was bringing up. But like the isolation chamber that she's in is called a giraffe. Very cute name, and I believe it was one. I tried very hard to find pricing on it. Also made by GE. Pretty much everything I've found so far has been made by GE, and it was always like call for pricing and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
the only thing I found as a reference to it was definitely in like the 270 range, like 270K.
Yeah.
So, and that's just something that like maintains an air temperature and stuff. That doesn't count all the other stuff that goes.
We could totally roll our own one of those. I mean,
Yeah, I think we could.
We
Get some
could.
You can get a
acrylic.
rack
You know the
enclosure
amount
for
of
much cheaper than that.
regulations that your product has to comply to be able
Yeah.
to be used in a hospital in a health
But just
environment?
Josh, just imagine how Maury could modify that thing.
No, Sebastian.
Oh,
I'd rather see Sebastian modify some
Ice
things.
cool it. Yeah,
it's true.
No cracked eyes.
I
Yeah.
would.
I see hospital equipment wars coming up.
I always thought it was weird. I know a
let's
couple of
go
people that work in IT in hospitals, and like they buy hospital grade monitors that are like $4,000. I'm like, that's a 22-inch 1080p display.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, but it's hospital grade. It's like, what does that even? What does that mean?
What does it happen? And
I-
it's just a monitor.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
need to get in that business. I'm going to sell them some hospital grade Intel Core i3 4300s or whatever
Yeah.
for $12,000.
We just put them under a UV light to sterilize them.
Yeah.
Conflict free.
Conflict.
Do you
free
ever
at this
wonder
point.
why healthcare costs as much as it does
Yeah.
in this country?
No, you are correct. You are correct.
Hey, look what the chairman of GE makes a year.
$12,000. 13
Something like
$13,000.
Yeah.
Add a few
Yeah.
more dozens of zeros. So something.
All right, so let's get in the show. Thanks for joining us on the live page, pcpro.com/live. We recorded on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. If you want a little reminder, you can go to pcpro.com/subscribe. You sign up for our mailing list. All we need is your name and your email address, and we'll send you a notification an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that before we actually go live. And we don't just remind you about our podcast. We also do other events, game streams, live streams, contests and giveaways. We don't use it for anything else. Nobody else has access to it. We don't sell it or anything like that. So go ahead and sign up for it there if you want. Again, that's pcpro.com/subscribe. But let's go ahead and jump into some of the stuff that happened this week. Honestly, kind of, again, because of my being in and out and around, things were a little bit slow. Everybody else kept up for me in terms of content, but some of these things we aren't going to spend a whole lot of time on. For example, Sebastian wrote up a review of the Zotac ZBOX CI321.
Okay.
It's
lot of letters
it's a
and numbers.
nano mini PC thing
Oh.
from Zotac. It kind of looks like a Nook style device,
It's cool looking.
but it is a little bit more. It's got some slightly more features, a little bit more performance than you would see otherwise. The problem is as of a couple of days ago when we were doing this, posting this up, it's like you can't find this one yet.
Oh, that's this one. Okay.
Yeah. So on the front, it's got SD card slot reader, which is something that only the upcoming future rumored Nooks have had. You've got, I guess, is that an IR receiver there too? Yeah, you got two USB 3.0 ports. You got your audio and power, and clearly you've got your wireless antenna down there. And on the back, you've got two Ethernet ports.
Do the Nooks have antennas like that stick out of the back?
No, they don't.
Huh.
They just use internal antenna. That's why the top of them is plastic.
Right. So the signal can make it through.
Signal can make it through. But this whole thing is plastic. So in theory, they could have done that. Maybe you get a little bit better option there.
Yeah.
HDMI, full-size display port, two more USB 3.0 ports, and a USB 2.0 port down there. Now, in terms of performance, you get an Intel Celeron 2961Y, which is actually it's a Haswell-based, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, this Haswell-based dual-core part.
Why they call it a
ultra low
Celeron?
voltage? Because I
They
don't
just
know.
did something with the function.
There's a
with the branding.
Pentium version of it as well that is a
Oh.
quad core, or maybe it's dual core hyper-threaded.
I wish they would stop
They
trying
just kind of reuse those brands.
Yeah, they need to stop doing
a
that.
little bit. Yeah, I don't really know what cache the Celeron name has anymore in the world, but it's better than Atom probably.
It used to just be a cheaper
Cache?
Pentium.
Cache or cache. I don't know how much.
Sachet, cachet.
Yeah.
Sachet,
Not sachet.
cachet.
It's spelled the same. What am I supposed to do? But it has more, like if it was an Atom part, you would have this assertion of performance, and if it's Celeron, now you have a slightly different assertion of performance.
Okay.
802.11ac, Bluetooth 4. It's very similar. 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. That's kind of the most interesting kind of standout
That is.
feature, I guess. And it does have a 2.5-inch hard drive slot on there as well. So the interesting thing about this is, it's still kind of a bare bones system. You've got to add your own memory, but that's pretty much it. Memory and storage, I guess. It does support Windows 7, 8, and 8.1, not included. So you're going to have to add your own operating system.
MSATA storage, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And no, wait.
Or M.2?
I'm sorry. No, it's SATA.
Regular 2.5-inch?
I believe so.
let's see.
Where was that here? Nope, I lied. No, it is right here. You can see it's 2.5-inch drive.
Okay.
It's 2.5-inch.
Just a weird looking bracket.
Yeah. The SATA.
It only
connection will be
holds
underneath
2
there.
screws from one side of the. Okay.
Yeah,
I get
looks
it.
like the 2 on the other one. So,
Huh.
but performance-wise, Sebastian came away fairly impressed. Like, it's more than capable of doing most of the computing tasks you're going to want to do anyway.
Sure.
Obviously, it's not going to steamroll through a bunch of stuff. But in terms of living room usage, probably better than what you'll get out of an Atom part.
Yeah.
Right?
Or a network monitoring box.
Yeah, I mean, one of the
thing would be
interesting
brilliant for
ideas,
that.
yeah, with the 2 gigabit NICs, you
Right.
can make this a
It could be a snort
router.
sensor.
It could be
It could be a snort sensor, which is a network monitoring box that has to be in line with the data.
Okay.
So that you can actually protect your network by blocking.
so it
traffic,
would
right?
go WAN to it to network.
Basically pass through it.
Yeah.
Right? And it would just be like a straight pass through, unless it saw something fishy, and then it could just like intercept that and shut it off. Yeah.
You were going to say something else, Jeremy?
I was going to say that, or a pfSense box, or if you've got inventory control software that runs over your network. Like, there's a lot of just sort of corporate uses that I can see for this, plus the HTPC stuff.
Yeah, what's the XBMC called now? Kodi. That's
Kodi.
K-O-D-I.
Okay, yeah.
Perfect box for that, probably, in terms of decode
Sure.
capability. And I think what maybe makes this more interesting is its price. Its MSRP is set at $139.
That is way less than a Nook.
Way less than a Nook. You still have to add memory.
It
and
actually
storage.
has shown up in NCIX.
Oh, it has. Okay.
It's $188.98.
Canadian or U.S.?
That's Canadian. So we've got it up
Roughly
here.
the same or close or something, I thought.
Someone in America would have to check it for me because NCIX redirects on your IP.
Oh, well, you can just put what's 188.88 Canada to USD. in real American dollars.
150-ish,
Okay, so it's close.
145.
It's pretty close. Obviously, you want to get it. The cheaper you can get this type of device, the better. I guess I should say that about anything. But when you're talking about a $130 device, 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks makes a difference in terms of what value you're actually getting out of it. So Sebastian came away impressed with it, gave it a gold award, all dependent on being able to find it at that price. But it has a lot of, I think, interesting and unique functionality that we will...
We had put off on publishing this one because like we couldn't find it, right?
Right. He had it done for a week or probably 2 weeks, and we were just kind of waiting for it to be released and be available. And finally, I was like, you know what, let's just get it out there. We've got a gap in the schedule, so I'm glad to see it's finally showing up. So we'll add some links to those guys that have it in stock once we get up and running, or once it gets up and running out there. Also, worth a quick mention is Lee's review of the Seasonic Snow Silent 350 watt power supply. A white power supply.
I was just impressed by the long row of connectors on it where you can...
Oh, right.
Yeah. That's pretty cool looking.
Completely modular.
Even the ATX connector.
Yep. Which, that's...
I kind of don't understand the reason for that, but it does look cool.
It looks neater, but yeah, it's not necessary. You're always
You
going
can
to
custom
need...
sleeve your own cables if you want.
It's like,
That's true.
I didn't need an ATX power connector for
That's
this
true.
build.
Can say you custom sleeve your own cables. You get that capability.
If you want
That's
shorter
true. You
cables.
get otherwise. Yeah, that's true.
Seasonic makes a shorter cable set for their power supplies, usually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
my guess, is that you can get extra long ones so you don't have to stretch that poor extra 12 volt all the way
That's
around
true.
the back of the
That's
board.
true.
How is that still a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know, but it is.
I don't know.
I also like the orientation on it. If you take a look at it, this is for one of the cases that has the PSUs on the bottom.
What do you mean?
I mean, you could certainly use it on one of the normal at the top, but it's the writing on it in comparison to where the fan is.
Oh, okay.
that
It's
is
like the
definitely from
labeling
one of
is
those newer style
inverted.
ones.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. Josh, you were going to say something?
No.
Good. Fine. Fine. So I haven't seen this in person. I will say, and the white coloring looks cool.
Yeah.
Like it looks neat, and it looks like if you have a white case, that would be what you would want to get.
That would be to match it,
The
yeah.
issue I possibly have is that two whites that are off a little bit
Yeah, if they're not the same tint.
stand out more than if you have like a black case with a kind of a slightly different
Right.
tone of black.
Yeah, that's why they offer an optional Confederate flag that you can attach to it.
Oh.
It was going to come by default, but they decided, in retrospect,
That was
they
banned at
probably shouldn't do
Walmart,
that.
so
yeah.
It was.
Had to, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the snow sign. It has a changes between hybrid and normal mode, controlling the fan output there. And if you like to look at the internals of power supplies, you can still do that here. And again, even the fan on the unit is like slightly different white, which makes it, maybe a problem. I mean, it's not a big deal, but
It's eggshell against
Yeah.
stark white.
Cream
Come on.
against eggshell. It's just wrong.
get this nice little border, this kind of metal border around it and stuff too. So, like I said, another high quality product from Seasonic. Lee definitely liked it a lot. It has a gloss white finish with silver and gold accents.
Okay.
Take it for what you will, aesthetically.
If you're into
if
that,
you're concerned about it,
then yeah.
Yeah. Sorry here.
I've
My
seen-
phone apparently updated because now it's beeping at me.
I've seen cases with that, kind of a theme to it. I mean, there's white cases. There's,
Yeah. 7-year warranty. That's another big advantage of Seasonic units.
Seasonic power supplies are always generally.
There's a
pretty
reason
darn
why
good.
so many people use Seasonic to make their power
Yeah.
supplies.
I had a water cooling loop leak into one time, and it made a very large pow and sent a fireball across my kitchen, and still worked for a few more days after that.
All right, I immediately don't like the 5.1 update.
Immediately, like it's just booted.
Immediately
Did
don't
it
like
stab
it.
you in the eye?
The Google bar at the top is now white instead of like dark gray, and and the apps button is now white
it's
instead of
eggshell.
dark gray. And the worst part, and this is something people complain about in the Nexus 6, if Sebastian is listening, he'll know. When I hold down the power button, it only gives me the power off option. It used to give me the mute, airplane mode, or power off option. Which means now
Try muting that phone, I dare you.
try muting it. Why?
Why, you can't mute it now? What?
Pretty difficult.
Oh, watch as
don't-
Ryan tries to mute
I don't
Android
wanna-
5.1.
I don't know.
It doesn't have a volume button.
What happens
on
if
it?
you volume all the way down?
I think it goes into vibrate,
Yeah.
Come on, genius.
but it doesn't.
Does it have like a no
Silent
vibration
mode,
mode?
Just everything off mode.
I'll have to worry about that later.
Later.
Damn it. We did have an interesting story go up this week from a guest writer,
Uh-huh.
right? And I know I'm going to screw up his name because we've only talked over email.
We should figure out the guy's pronunciation.
We should have, but we didn't.
Oh.
Jared
before the podcast.
Periscopio.
Sorry,
That's
Yes.
pretty close.
sorry,
Hang
guy who we're about to butcher.
Alexandru Voica? Would you go with that?
Wojcia.
Voica?
I think it's
Wojcia.
Wojcia.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that. You see, you guys should have said that
Alexandru
before I
Wojcia.
said anything then.
So I
Yeah,
hadn't
but we
read it
wanted to
yet.
see what you came up with.
So he works at Imagination Technologies, one of the providers of IP technology for SoCs. Makes the
Okay.
graphics core that's inside the Apple SoCs, right?
So to be clear, like, not patent troll IP licensing.
No, no, no,
Because
no,
if you
no,
say
no.
that, people might
No,
just,
no, no. Like they actually develop.
Yeah, these
IP.
are the guys developing this stuff. Not
They're
just
known. They're
licensing
known
this
for their
stuff.
GPU technology and their MIPS technology,
Right.
as well. He works there. His background is computer graphics, and he was also briefly at least, a computer CPU engineer working on several high-profile 32-bit processors that apparently will remain unnamed.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so he presented us with this story. He emailed me and said, "Hey, I've got this thing. Here's this outline. What do you think about this?" And he was just basically looking for feedback on it. And I read it through it, and I thought, what, this is really cool. And it's also a topic that I think a lot of people don't have a very good understanding of, the subject of which is the IP licensing business model. So we talk about ARM, we talk about Qualcomm, we talk about their relationship, we talk about Imagination, we
Sure.
talk about NVIDIA and how they all kind of play in this field, but we don't really ever talk about like the business model behind it.
Yeah.
how do these companies work together, but also compete against each other in certain instances. So his story here kind of outlines the business model between IP vendors, semiconductor vendors, OEMs, ODMs, people who are actually producing the parts, and then how that affects consumers and people who are actually buying hardware out here in the real world. Josh, did you have a chance to take a look at this piece? Any kind of like thoughts or interesting tidbits that you took out of it? It's just one of those things that I can sit here and I can read it to everybody, but you should go.
You should definitely read it.
And see. This is somebody who works in the business and is inside this field, but doesn't come off like he's referencing other people's IP inventors. It's not like an advertisement for his company or anything like that. It's just more of an explanation of how the process works.
He's got a picture in here of someone doing routing, like circuit routing.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched a YouTube video of someone doing circuit routing of like a really complicated anything, that is immediately impressive to watch and to like,
Synopsys routing tools at work.
That's just a really small bit.
You have to have a different
router.
You have to have a different kind of a brain to do stuff like that.
Yeah. So not me is what you're saying.
Oh,
man. Josh, I mean, what's your takeaway from this or the IP business model in general? To be fair, I will also say that we want to actually have him on and do kind of like an interview to talk about this type of stuff.
That'd be cool.
If people are interested in it, right? If this is something that you guys think is interesting and compelling topic, right? We already had we had Jim Davies on talking about mobile GPUs for a while. People seem to really like that. This is more on the business side of things, but I think it'd still be very interesting and engaging for people that don't really understand how Imagination develops a GPU without producing any hardware. They essentially rent it to Apple, who makes a chip that runs games and sells phones, and move out that way.
IP licensing is essentially the lifeblood of mobile, just because it takes a lot of money to develop these things in the first place. And it takes even more money to actually put that into production. So these guys who have got more simple chips, they've already got production and suppliers and that. They don't have potentially the R&D to develop a new architecture. They license it to somebody else, from somebody else, get it out. It's huge, obviously, in China and around the world, and Qualcomm license, everybody does. Everyone except Intel. They used to, but not anymore.
Right, there used to be Imagination GPU technology on Atom processors.
But even before that, it was, X-Scale?
I don't remember.
That they had.
That sounds right, yeah.
Intel owned a share of Imagination. They owned a stake.
That's right, they did for a while too, as well.
Yeah.
So, this article up on PCPro.com is called "The IP Licensing Business Model: A Love Story," and it is not strictly a business style article, right? Go read it. I think it's interesting. You'll have a better understanding of how your phone came to be, how your tablet came to be, and why and how so many companies are involved. I really appreciate him letting us,
because it's damn complex to build a chip, no matter what.
Yeah.
You have to have the basic design, you go through the EDA, you do layout, then you got to go to masks, then you got to go to the foundries, and then you work out the bugs. You got to change metal layers, you hit yields and bins, and it's just horrific. This is why I'm not in the business. That, and I'm not very smart.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much of that second one to really affect your ability to be in that business. So check out that review, or that story rather, and let us know if you think it's interesting and you want to have him on, and we'll do like a short video and an audio interview of that, and try to go further down that rabbit hole.
Maybe get some questions from people.
He already said that he'd be willing to do it, and we could talk for as long as we wanted about the IP business model.
Wow.
So
make sure Josh is in on that call.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you're going down to a pub on a Saturday and you meet a guy from so-and-so...
No.
No? That's too far down the rabbit hole?
Too far down.
No. All right.
Let's talk about a monitor. Let's say this is... we talk a lot about monitors recently.
We have.
As it turns out.
Variable refresh rate monitors, especially. So
if you remember back to CES... there was a display that ASUS had in their booth that kind of was out in this kind of no man's land. It claimed to be DisplayPort 1.2a plus certified, or capable rather, which means it would support the variable refresh capability built into adaptive sync, the adaptive sync part of the standard. But it wasn't a G-Sync monitor, it wasn't a FreeSync monitor, but it looked good. It was IPS. It had 144 hertz refresh rate.
1440p display.
2560 by 1440 screen. All wonderful things. They had a price point listed at $599. At CES, they said that was going to be the price.
At CES, yeah.
And everybody fell in love with it. Now, it's almost 7 months later.
Yes.
All right, hold on.
Yes, you can do addition.
Yes.
CES.
That worked.
Subtraction.
Well, it might be, almost 7 months, yeah.
So what the result is now, we've talked about this before because ASUS and AMD announced this after the fact, is that it's now a FreeSync monitor, but some of the specifications have changed.
Yes, they've morphed a little.
So give me the high-level explanation of the specifications on this monitor now that we know that it is an AMD FreeSync capable display, rather than just some kind of generic unknown VRR monitor.
So initially it was supposed to be a 120 hertz.
Yes,
display,
correct.
remember?
You're right. Not 144.
Then later they came out and said, 144. But then we also heard that the variable refresh rate range might not be up to 144. It might be something different. Turns out that that's 35 hertz to 90 hertz.
Okay.
So that's the refresh rate range when you're operating in FreeSync mode on this display. Quick note there, you actually have to go into the on-screen display and turn on FreeSync for this panel. It actually almost appears as if it was a different straight
it almost like
panel.
It reboots the monitor.
Yeah, it like resets the display. Windows sees it as if it disconnected.
Yeah, if you have the speakers on, you hear the doo-doo.
Yeah, it makes it sound everything. And it basically comes back like in FreeSync mode, so to speak, right? And when you do that, it gives you an additional refresh rate option under Windows that was not there before, and that is 90 hertz. Okay, so you go into Windows, you change it to 90, and you go into your AMD driver, you enable FreeSync.
And there you go.
And then you're off, right? And if you try to trick it and go into 120 or 144 hertz mode, the display pops up a little window, says, hey, I can't do FreeSync. It gives you an overlay.
When you try to trick it, do you mean going into the Windows display
properties? Yeah, if you go into Windows and you try to change it to 120 or 144, you can, but it's not FreeSync anymore.
So the monitor essentially can exist in two different modes. It can exist as a 144 hertz static refresh monitor.
Just standard panel, standard IPS panel.
Actually still impressive because it's 25 by 14 IPS, 144 hertz.
Yes.
That's a positive.
Yeah, good panel.
But it can also exist in this FreeSync mode, which is a maximum refresh of 90 hertz, 25 by 14 IPS, same characteristics.
Right.
And also, since we know that FreeSync has a minimum variable refresh, we found that was 35.
Yes, which is the lowest we've seen
on any FreeSync monitor thus far.
Yes.
Which is good. For a FreeSync display, you want the minimum variable refresh as low as it can possibly go.
Yeah, especially because
that gives you the biggest window for tear-free, jutter-free animation on your screen.
Well, I mean, if they could have done 40 to 144, that's technically a wider window, but it's not as low, right? And for a display that's 1440p and playing brand new titles, you're kind of get close to the 35, 40
sure,
if you have everything cranked up, right?
Even with like the Fury X, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto, yeah.
Right, at very high style image quality settings and very, very well in that kind of like 40 FPS range.
Exactly. So if 40 was the bottom of the window, you might see that kind of on and off, variable refresh versus tearing or judder, whichever you have chosen, right? So I think that's good. I think it's better to get that extra 5 hertz.
So there were kind of rumors going around that the monitor could have either existed as a 35 to 90 FreeSync or something higher than that, like 40 or 45
to 144.
And which of those windows would we have preferred ASUS actually go with? And you and I both agree that the 35 to 90 makes the most sense.
Yeah, for this resolution of a panel. If it was 1080p, different story.
Correct.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But for this, that's a good choice.
Yep.
And 90 is still pretty high. I mean, really,
is.
Even when you're in Windows, because I thought
it's like 30 more than 60.
Well, I mean, compared to 144, right? I mean, it's still 50% gain. from
Right.
60 to
No, I
90,
get it,
yes.
yeah.
But like even at 90, initially I thought, because I'm familiar with a lot of the other 144 hertz variable refresh panels, just using them day to day, that sort of thing, and it's a big difference just operating on the desktop, going from 60 to 144. I mean, the cursor is just like butter smooth, and just windows are just move around much smoother, stuff like that. At 90, it feels very similar.
I agree.
Much more similar to the high side than
to 60.
Right?
Yes, I agree. Notice I could tell immediately that the refresh rate was higher than 60 when I was using it on the desktop.
But it's almost like, all the way to 144 doesn't feel that much, super much faster kind of thing where, oh my goodness, it's 90, but it's not 144. No, I didn't really get any of that.
So I see some people in the comments on, talking about 90 not being a very high maximum refresh rate.
I think it's fine.
And it's
50% faster than 60 hertz.
I mean,
math.
So
there.
here's where the disadvantage falls, I believe, and that's if you're like a retro gamer kind of person, you're playing a lot of older titles that have no problem going over 90, and you can't max everything out and still be within the window.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. I mean, that's but even if you had a panel that maxed out at 144, you might still be in that case, right? I play Deus Ex on like a pair of GTX 680s, it's going over 144.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I'm still, I'm still stuck there too. I'm still out of the window, right? Yeah. So all that stuff aside.
Tell me about, the minimum refresh rate was one issue that we've had with FreeSync monitors in the past.
That's a generalism, right? That's across all of them.
Ghosting was another issue we've had with FreeSync monitors in the past, where the first sets of FreeSync monitors that we saw didn't implement a variable refresh enabled overdrive capability.
It was actually bad enough to where I think even if you had FreeSync enabled in the driver at all, even like on the desktop, the overdrive wasn't working. Like it wasn't working anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. This panel, it definitely works. If you are in any of the desktop refresh rates, which are 60, 90, 120, 144, and you're on the desktop, it's fine at the default setting, which is, I think it's like 5 or 6 increments. It's in 0 to 100 with increments of 20.
Sure.
Right? So you adjust this. What was the name of it?
Trace free.
Trace free. They named it something weird. I don't know why they just didn't call it overdrive, but that's what ASUS called it. Trace free is actually the overdrive setting. The default of 60 appears to be the perfect setting for all of the standard refresh rates on the desktop. Mm-hmm. What we noticed is once we went into variable refresh mode, we saw negative ghosting at the default settings. In other words, overdrive was doing too much effectively for that refresh rate that was operating somewhere below 90, right? So for the FreeSync demo, the windmill demo, that runs like 45, 50, 60. There's like different options you can choose
in between or whatever.
And that demo doesn't give us enough variance to be able to tell if like how far away you were affected how much the negative ghosting was. It didn't really seem that apparent of a difference as you changed the refresh rate, but there was obviously negative ghosting there. It was kind of too effective. And the other problem was that since this works in kind of a nonlinear fashion, if overdrive isn't doing the right thing in variable refresh mode, there was really no way to completely get rid of it, right? So if we set it to 0, it was basically not doing anything, and then you had regular ghosting, right?
Sure.
And usually you'd be able to turn it up until you don't have, the negative and the positive kind of cancel each other out. And when you find this nice little sweet spot in the middle, you're good. This one did a weird thing where we had a positive ghost in the center and like a negative ghost on the outline of the windmill blade, and that was at 20. So I would say 20 was the best, in that experience right there. But
did they fix it? Did ASUS fix it compared to everything else we've seen in the past?
This is as fixed as we've seen. Yes, overdrive works.
Okay.
It does. I think it could be tuned a little bit better in variable refresh mode.
Okay.
So that's my caveat.
It's still way better than we've seen any other FreeSync monitor.
Yeah.
We have at least one other monitor incoming that claims to have fixed the overdrive issue with FreeSync. We'll see. We'll evaluate that one separately.
Yep.
Obviously, but this is much closer to what we see with the G-Sync monitor.
It is
than we've seen in the past. So that's good. So that's the other kind of like major drawback that people.
That's probably what's
really
been
pushed
holding
on the FreeSync.
That's what's been holding a lot of people back. A buddy of mine that has been waiting to buy a FreeSync panel, he was waiting until this one came out. He saw our review, he got it and he let me know. He's like, yeah, this is good.
The other thing worth noting here, we talked about the technical side of it. Like physically, this is also a pretty good monitor as well. It's very much styled after the ROG Swift.
Yes.
Not quite as high quality. Say the rotation method is a little bit, it's a
similar.
cheaper way.
It's like they took the design of the Swift and they kind of, it seems weird, but it almost seems like they took that design and toned it down.
Right.
Like
they did. Yeah, I think so.
They kind of unchiseled it.
This is not technically an
ROG
ROG monitor. Like it's not part of that.
Right.
That brand. It does have. You do get the benefits of additional inputs. You've got two DisplayPort, one mini, one full size, both of which can actually accept variable refresh inputs.
Which is also a first.
That's the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, that's the first time in any variable refresh display. Period. G-Sync or FreeSync, right? There's two inputs that can do variable refresh.
And then there's two HDMIs as well, which do not do variable refresh, but give you more flexibility on how to use this monitor otherwise, right? Which is
an advantage of FreeSync.
Yeah, absolutely. OSD worked great. The rest of the monitor I think is good. It's not as good of a build as the ROG Swift, but still like
the bezel's a little bit thicker.
It's way better than the Acer FreeSync monitor we had.
Oh yeah.
But the BenQ FreeSync monitor we had was pretty good as well. So, and again, this is a $599 display. I did spent a lot of time gaming on it, and it played very well in terms of smoothness. You still have to worry about if your frame rate's over 90 and if your frame rate is under 35.
Yep.
Are you going to turn VSync on or off, and what does that change? Right. So that's still a problem. Josh, you're going to say
let me posit this.
Pause it away.
It kind of seems to me that the scalars on these panels are eventually going to evolve into coprocessors from GPUs because we're asking them to do a lot of complex things. And so far, scalars have been relatively small and simple in what they do. I mean, what they do is complex enough. I mean, the physics and computing behind that and just getting everything to work as well as it can. It's kind of impressive, and we see what NVIDIA did with G-Sync, that big ASIC, plenty of memory involved. Do you agree that we're going to see the scalar guys really step up their game and potentially maybe not combine FreeSync and G-Sync, but at least knock some heads together and say, look, we need to stop fragmenting the market and let's do something that's going to handle it all.
I think you give the scalar vendors too much credit. In terms
and that
of
makes me sad.
What they want to do. I do agree with the idea that they're becoming more of this kind of co-processor. At least that's the mentality that NVIDIA wants us to think, right? That the G-Sync module they built is not just there as DRM, as many people have said, that it has this other function. And a lot of it is that it can do the overdrive capability very well. A lot of it is that it handles low frame rates without any intervention from the GPU or the system, having to know about anything. So it's possible that may happen, Josh, but
it's a group of vendors that has had to not do a lot of changing in the past few years.
Or ever, almost.
Well, you had initial...
Okay, at least in the last 15 years.
Well, like LCD displays came out. LCD displays came out, and then it was like... And then the next big thing was like overdrive. Ooh, this has overdrive to get like faster response times, right? And then, and that involves some math, right? But that math has not changed in any kind of major way since that came out, which was like over a decade ago. Right. So now you're trying to do variable refresh rate with overdrive calculations. Obviously, it must add a couple more variables to that math, right?
Absolutely.
And that the hardware is probably just not, it can only do so much math, I would imagine. So it's probably some kind of a limit, right? You're going to design it around what it was doing. So yeah, probably another generation worth of scalars is needed to like.
I don't think it's impossible that like the G-Sync module will eventually go away if the scalar vendors, at least a couple of them, say, hey, we can do all that stuff for you.
Yeah.
Because I don't think at the end of the day, I don't want to say that. I think at the end of the day, NVIDIA probably does want to be in control of all that, right? But
yeah, because they want to be able to, tweak whatever their part of the experience is. And
they want to be able to have a reason for people to choose them over AMD.
Sure.
Right.
But won't that then become kind of more software driven? If they give them the power to do that in the scalar, than the algorithms and the
I agree.
actual driver implementation.
It could just be
AMD
driver-based.
doesn't use NVIDIA's drivers, so why wouldn't they be able to do what they do to
So, I mean,
drive these
NVIDIA is
chips?
already kind of doing this, right, with mobile G-Sync.
Yeah.
Right? There's no scaler, there's no G-Sync module in the middle. They claim to be able to do overdrive and the minimum refresh calculations all on the driver side and spit that out to the just panel that way.
But they can only pull that off because there's not a scaler in the middle.
Correct.
So they're able to just do what the overdrive
But if
was
they could
doing.
get scalers in the middle that follow what exactly protocols they need and are more open, they could do that.
Yeah. They have
But
to really get it right.
yeah, I
Like,
agree.
You know.
In any event, the ASUS MG279Q, in case I didn't say the model number of that the entire time we discussed it,
Sorry.
is, even though, keep in mind, even though it is labeled as a 144 hertz monitor, it is 144 hertz, not in FreeSync mode,
Right.
35 to 90 in FreeSync mode.
Right.
As long as you know that going into it, I think that seems fair. And for $599, that's $150 to $200 less than the equivalent G-Sync module or
Yeah.
G-Sync monitor.
Yes.
That's an advantage, and that's what AMD has been preaching for a while, is, hey, we'll be able to do this for cheaper. Now, it's still not exactly parity in terms of features and capability,
Correct.
right? You can get that Acer XB270HU
Yes.
that does 0 or 1 frames per second variable
to
to 144 IPS 25 by 14, right? So it has a better experience on it
Yep.
that way, but this is still closer than we've ever seen.
This one looks better. Like the build
The
of
physical
this is
capability
clearly
of it,
better
yeah.
and walks all over that Acer.
Yep.
Because that Acer, that was our big negative in that review. It was just like,
Yep. All right, let's get to the meat of the podcast today. That is the Lexar Professional Workflow HR2, UR1, SR1, CFR1, DD256.
That's a lot of.
Just give it. This is
It's almost like a gigabyte.
just
motherboard.
Give it to us quickly. What
thing.
do we got here?
It's
People on Twitter are yelling at
it's
me for not talking about
basically
the Fury X.
it's basically a USB docking station thing for
Okay.
card readers.
Okay.
Okay, and then Lexar makes different kind of card readers. They make a micro SD, and they make an SD1, compact flash, CFast. They even make like a little thing that acts like a USB drive. You know, it's
Yep.
like 256 or 512 gig drive, right? And they're all these little pods that they're pretty small. They're like they're basically card reader sized. Yeah. Now it is
It's like a crazy looking Lego block that if you put it on the ground and step on it, it'd probably amputate your foot.
probably.
Immediate
Yeah,
amputation.
I mean it's you know, there's a desktop unit which is basically a USB 3 4-port hub, except it's not standard ports. It just has the Type B? Yeah, it has the Type B plugs in the back of it that would go into the back of each one of those modules. And you can also use those modules separately, like if you're traveling. You know, the idea is that this main thing would sit on your desk at home where you're editing and doing whatnot, you know, whatever. But then when you're going to travel, so I need the SD card reader because I'm about to go on a trip. Well, you keep the USB cord in your bag, like the extra one that came with it, and you just grab the card reader out of the thing, throw it in your bag, you know, you go do your trip, whatever, you come back, now you got to dump all the stuff on your PC, you know, you just stick the thing back in your PC, right?
Yeah.
You know, and the readers are pretty cheap. They range between like $15 and $30 for the readers.
the tower, you mean?
No, the readers, the individual.
Oh, the individual modules.
readers,
Yeah.
The drives are a little more expensive, like the actual USB drives, but I think the half a terabyte model was like less than
The
30 cents a
SSDs were
gig.
cheap.
Yeah. Now, granted, they're not super fast SSDs, but they're
No.
reasonable. They're more than enough for just you're storing stuff that you're reading off of an SD card, right? If you don't have a lot of storage on your laptop and you're willing to travel with more like a bulkier kind of thing, you could just grab that whole thing, throw it in a suitcase or whatnot, and you have all the storage too. If you had a storage pod in there, now you got to have a terabyte built into it, right? Now you just plug it into a computer just to tell it to move the stuff from the cards to the, you know, to the USB drive
Right.
that's built in, right? So it was pretty good. The one kind of negative is they make a Thunderbolt version.
It's
of-
USB 3.0 and Thunderbolt.
It's USB 3.0 plus Thunderbolt
Right.
for that hub. So that's a more expensive model. That's the HR2. The HR1 is like a quarter the cost of the Thunderbolt model. So you're talking like something like a couple $100 versus like 40, right? So
That's a huge difference.
It's a big difference. And when we tested just reading from
Where's the pricing there? There it is.
just reading from Lexar's own USB drive in the unit, we got faster speeds over USB than over Thunderbolt testing on Windows and
So
Mac.
the tower, the base, if you want to call that can hold all these things, is $45 if you get the USB 3 only version, or $196 if you get it with Thunderbolt. Yeah, nobody needs it with Thunderbolt version.
Yeah, I mean, it does come with the Thunderbolt cord, and that's kind of pricey. It's like $40 cord.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
But that was nice, but still, it's, unless you absolutely got to have Thunderbolt only and can't use USB 3, I would just say get the USB 3 one, because it's just way, way cheaper.
I mean, that sounds helpful. Like, you've got one at the office, you've got one at home, and you can take that hard drive with you, that 512 gig drive, which is fairly spacious.
You could just grab it out of the
just
one,
unplug it, and then plug it in at home. Yeah.
Even throw it in your pocket, and then you get home.
And
pop it in.
I put, believe it or not, I put something on the fact that it is big enough to not be lost in your bag.
Yes.
I like SD cards. I lose them all the time in this office.
What I will say is it's once you put all these together, if you're trying to read from all those different things, this is not going to be as small as one of those 22-in-1 card readers you can buy off of Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. But chances are those are not going to be as compatible or as fast, because the Lexar card readers are known to be like basically compatible with everything.
Oh, right.
And if you want to do the fastest possible reading from a given SD card, chances are you'll get it from the Lexar readers, right? Generally speaking. So, it's good stuff.
So check that out if you're looking for a little handy-dandy storage accessory type things. All right. So apparently people want us to talk about this Fury X thing.
Yeah, we should talk about the Fury X thing.
So when we did when I did my review of the AMD Fury X graphics card, the world's first graphics card based on the Fiji GPU.
Yes.
I actually came away from it in a fairly positive light. It wasn't faster than the 980 Ti, but it provided a lot of positives in terms of its cooling.
It was close to the 980 Ti.
It was close, performance-wise, yeah. But one of the negatives was the pump whine that it had, right? And it was kind of prevalent in mine. It was kind of this loud, annoying, very unique sound.
It was a sound that kind of bounces off walls.
Like, it was just, I equated it to
right?
The sound of a CRT monitor being left on someplace.
It's a flyback.
You can't quite find out where it's coming from.
It's called a flyback transformer. It's like the sound of transformer inside a television.
It's kind of like the SNL skit, The World's Most Annoying Man. He does the high-pitched sound while doing the fingers right in your periphery.
The thing is, with the sample, it actually was not a loud sound. It was like the frequency and just the pattern that it made the sound was kind of piercing.
Right.
And it kind of bounced off of stuff in the office. So
and we weren't the only people that saw it. If you look at Tech Report's review or Hardware Connect's review and others, they all noticed the same pump noise.
Yes.
And when we approached AMD about it, they basically said, I won't have to say basically said,
quote,
they basically claimed that the issue was limited to a very small batch of initial production samples, and we have worked with the manufacturer to improve the acoustic profile of the pump. The problem has been resolved and a fix added to production parts and is not an issue. So pretty much everybody took that for, what you can take that for from AMD.
Yeah.
And said, okay, well, we had this whine, but if it's not going to be what's sold to consumers, fine, we'll wait until we hear back on that. So they went on sale. And we acquired a couple of retail units. These were XFX branded units from Newegg. They were purchased at Newegg. And essentially, you can see all three of them stacked here. We were going to do performance testing, obviously, with the graphics cards, but we decided to do some sound testing as well. So here's kind of our setup there, using a Zoom H6, which is like a $400 audio recorder. We're not just using something off of a phone, somebody recording a movie off their iPhone or whatever. So we should get a better representation of audio from this as we record it than you would most anything else.
Provided that the people that play it back, whoever you are,
you got to have
decent
speakers.
You got to have good speakers. I would recommend earbuds that have like very, very flat response.
We recorded all three of the Fury X cards we had, and then the 295X2, 980 Ti at idle and at load. And the end of the result, or the net result, is we found that both of the retail Fury X cards that we found, or that we had, were actually louder than the sample that we got.
Yep.
Both in terms of the whine was a little bit more pronounced, and like retail card 1 had this kind of strong buzzing sound to it that was not a coil whine. It was not a coil buzz that changed as frame rate changed. It was just a consistent buzz. And then the third one, retail card 2, did not have that strong of a buzz, but it was still louder.
It had
Otherwise.
you could tell more of that initial kind of pitchy
Yeah.
sound in it.
So the first takeaway is that for at least the initial round of buyers of the AMD Fury X, you're still going to be stuck with this problem.
You might.
You might, yes, when we only have a sample size of 2, so it's hard to say for sure.
We don't know for sure.
But based on people posting things on Reddit and on YouTube, like, we're not the only ones that see this. Other reviewers are seeing this, and people who are actually getting their hands and actually paying money for these cards are seeing the same problems. So that is still definitely the case. It's not that, like, oh, we fixed it before any retail cards went out. Clearly, that's not the case.
Correct.
AMD, at the very minimal, the very nicest way to put it is they deflected the issue, hoping that retail cards would, not be purchased up or whatever you wanted to, to call it. But obviously, people have found that this is the case.
And it does even seem like there's like a newer version of the retail cards already, that there are
maybe
some out there.
Yeah, we're seeing reports of people not having
that one of them,
pump wine.
like the what it looks like is that there were stickers on the coolers.
Stickers on some and
the early
embossed metal on the others.
Yeah, and the other ones are like engraved, and the engraved ones are like real final, supposedly. Like I haven't seen one of those that's allowed yet.
So
in other words.
I mean, I hope that's the case.
Right.
And hopefully everybody that got one that sounds like butt can return theirs and get one that doesn't sound like butt.
I hope so.
To put it technically, I guess.
I hope that's a condition that they allow an RMA for.
I based on reports and what I've seen,
Yeah.
that seems to be the case. So in that sound profile, we also included, like I said, the 295X2 just to demonstrate that you could have a water-cooled setup without this whine, because the 295X2 has 2 pumps.
Yeah.
And has none of the high-pitched whine. It's a little bit louder because it has a fan in it.
And it's a different kind of sound. Like
It's a different kind of
the pump
sound.
does make a sound, but it's not a pitchy sound.
Right.
It's just like a
and then we
regular
have the
pump.
980 Ti in there as well, because just to show that even though the 980 Ti under a full gaming load, it's moving a lot of air through that blower fan.
Oh yeah.
And it's loud.
It's louder than all the other ones.
It's louder than everything. So if I show you the sound profile of the 980 Ti reference, it looks like this, right? And don't pay a whole lot of attention. I mean, these sound levels, these loudness levels over here are important, but pay attention to the
profile.
The profile of it, how it's kind of like a smoother decline in it, and then look at what we get in the 2 AMD Fury X cards. We have these kind of very high peaks and valleys, which basically mean that these particular frequencies are...
It's more of a defined sound, basically, is what it is, right?
Instead of being something close to white noise, you get these individual piercing sounds. One of the one that we have decided is the actual pump noise is 1900 hertz.
Yeah, the most prevalent one.
Yeah.
And a few of those are just sidebands of 1900.
Right.
Like just an effect of if you just had 1900, there would be those other peaks.
Gotcha.
There. But yeah, there's some other stuff in there that just kind of mixes in with it and makes it that kind of funky sound that gets to some people.
I mean, the most even-handed way I could say this is that the 980 Ti under load is louder than the AMD Fury X under load.
Sure.
But for the 3 Fury X cards that I have seen and that we have tested and used, the sound of the Fury X's is way more annoying than what the 980 Ti produces. And you can read, like, it's not just us. Scott Wasson over at Tech Report said the same thing, that that it's
piercing.
Yeah, he called it a piercing sound.
I mean, it's you
have
have
gouge
just
his eyes out, or
you have
fingernails
just
on a
an-
chalkboard type of thing.
you have just an air sound
Yeah,
versus something else, right? I mean, you're used to just hearing, like, it's a computer. It has fans, air sound, right? Like, that's what most video cards do. It's just air sound, right? Yeah. But again, it's just the way that it bounces off the walls and stuff. That's what kind of does the weird thing with your ears, where you were saying it, like, if you turn your head,
it just changes.
It changes the way that the sound is perceived by you changes, because it's kind of hitting your ears
it's
out
all
of
the
phase or in
wavelength
phase.
and the way your ears are spaced and the way the canal is. And this is one of the things. I mean, a pretty simple sound dampening material will cut this out, because these high frequency sounds don't have a lot of energy behind it as compared to bass wavelength, big long, strong wavelengths. So
getting the friction on.
Dubstep.
Exactly. But if you had a case that was totally enclosed, didn't have vent holes in there, you probably wouldn't hear it.
That's
but
true.
I mean, how many cases do you have that don't have, like
Holes.
punctured side panels that you can mount 120 millimeter fans on or whatever, or backs? I mean, once that sound escapes, I mean, it's like a mosquito running around your room. You don't know where it's at, but damn it,
Yeah, I know that.
you can
feeling
hear
too.
that SOB.
Yeah. So
And-
that's
and
kind. That's kind of.
We did notice that effect in the office, like 'cause where I sit or where Ken sits, it's a good 10, 15 feet across from where you're testing GPUs, and I don't usually notice a GPU on the test bed,
Right.
generally.
Yeah.
But when those are going, especially that initial review sample that just had the really pitchy kind of sound to it, like that thing was like, "Are you done testing yet? Could you please shut that off?"
So what we want to get. I have asked AMD. It's like, okay, if you have one that's fixed and you say this is representative of fixed, let's do that.
Yeah.
Show me one that's different. And then I've asked for a very detailed explanation of what they changed or what Cooler Master changed
Right.
with the pump redesign, right? Give me some actual answers. And I've asked them for, to be perfectly honest, asked them for multiple days before this story went up about, tell me what changed, tell me exactly how many went out that don't have it, give me all that information.
Right.
And they just didn't. Right.
Okay.
And so we publish what we have, and now hopefully they'll respond to it. I want it to be fixed because it's just that one little thing that they don't need.
Well, it sounds like
kind
they
of
did fix
riding
it.
them throughout the life of this product.
Like it sounds like there are parts that are fixed. It's just the question is,
You don't know if that there are parts that are fixed as much as there are parts that just don't have the problem.
I guess.
Right? It could just be lucky that some of them don't. But if it all seems to match up with the sticker versus the embossing, then fantastic. Let's do it. Let's see them.
Yeah.
Let's get 2 more of those in that have the embossed version of the cooler, and
We do a
see-
5-way crossfire.
It's harder to do that than
No,
you
you
would like, but
can't do
yes, and see how that works. So, anyway, we're going to test these for 3-way crossfire as well. We're going to do 2-way and 3-way crossfire against 2-way and 3-way 980 Ti SLI. So obviously we'll have performance article to follow up on this as well. Please offer any and all feedback to the article comment section in question, I guess.
There be dragons.
All right, let's get through these last handful of things so I can go home and actually sleep
in your own
today
bed.
in my own bed. I will say last Wednesday, I believe I made that statement that I was going to go home and sleep in my own bed.
You did.
My 2 nephews that were there watching my dogs were in
They threw a rager.
They were in my bed asleep with the dogs, and I felt like I opened the door and I was like, man,
That leaves 0 room.
I'm
you.
not going to wake them up to move them. So I slept on the couch. So after all of that,
Nice, right?
I slept on the couch.
So how long has it been since you slept in your bed?
I slept in my bed twice since June 9th.
All right.
So ready to go. Jeremy, tell me about Skylake processors and coolers.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we're all shocked and dismayed to hear that our favorite cooler on the planet, the retail cooler that ships with the CPU, isn't going to come with Skylake-K.
Oh, no.
sensors. So you're not going to be able to use that ugly arse sort of orb-looking thing that Intel has packaged on their coolers with their
Oh
CPUs.
no,
for God
your
knows how
CPU's
long.
all hot and junk.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
then again, it is like a 95 watt, and they're suggesting about 135 watt maybe if you get a Skylake-K. So yeah, if you go out and you buy a really expensive unlocked Intel processor for overclocking, you're gonna have to fork out for a Rory-sized cooler. I've seen a couple of people actually really upset about this. I don't understand, because do they not have like a stack of unused retail coolers in a back room somewhere? These things do not get used. It
I
would be
think-
But
nice.
is this a Cooler Master pump in the Intel CPU?
Intel did this with Xeons a few years
Yep.
ago.
They offered it. Didn't they offer a water cooler for
And
Sandy
that was
Bridge
the
or
thing. They offered
Ivy
custom
Bridge-y?
ones.
Sandy Bridge and
Sandy
I think
Bridge-y.
Ivy Bridge as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was fine. I still use it. Actually, you use it on one of the storage test beds.
the
works-
thing, the
works
thing
just
that
fine.
sucks about this is you like can't post a machine. Like if you have an all-in-one water cooler and you don't want to install it, and you're trying to post the board outside the machine,
Yeah,
or
that's
outside
true.
the case.
And Ken and I had this discussion earlier in the week. That's like, I bet we'd be surprised how many buyers
Actually, use the
use
Intel.
the integrated cooler, not the integrated cooler,
The OEM
included
cooler. Yeah.
OEM
It
cooler.
makes me sad, but you're probably
I bet it's
right.
like 75%.
I bet it's really
Right,
high.
you are,
I've
Ken.
I've used the OEM cooler on a lot of Intel CPUs. I
Yeah,
have.
and you shouldn't. Like, I get it.
Uh,
But it's
no,
a
I mean,
I get that I
convenience
should.
thing.
Why shouldn't you?
But I mean, a lot of times
know,
they're
'cause
pretty.
they're
A lot of
loud.
times, no. A lot of times, the recent ones have been very
That
quiet.
one's loud.
They are loud.
They're loud compared to good. Like even the cooler. What's that Cooler Master?
Evo
212.
212.
Evo 212. That's
Okay.
like $30.
I mean, any aftermarket one is going to be quieter. Sure.
and way more effective. Like those coolers, the CPUs got hotter than any other cooler,
Okay.
and they were louder, right? So they were they were the bare minimum to get done, and that's what Intel designed it for, obviously.
Yep.
But
But I just like to see them offer either bundle packages or like AMD did with a certain processor not too long ago, where it shipped with a water cooler.
AMD did that because they had to.
Well, they kind of had to, yeah.
Because it was a 250 watt processor.
220.
No,
which is a
no,
plate
no, no.
135.
219 watt. Get it right.
219. Oh, now
219.
I thought it was 220. We're rounding down to 219.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
Intel has always really wanted to be able to ship all of their CPUs without coolers
They
Sure.
can save $5.
for
Yeah.
a long
They
time.
did that back in the Pentium days. Well,
Got the
90.
slot processors.
slot one.
Sluckets.
That had
Okay,
a
maybe 386.
slot.
Yeah, even before the slockets.
Yeah.
They did
I
a
don't
couple
remember.
of times.
386. You weren't that worried about your big honking
Your
cooler
heat.
on your CPU.
That's true.
No.
A 40 mil fan was good enough.
Yeah.
There was no heat sink. None on them.
Does anybody know anything about this Samsung battery enhancement technology through silicon? Jeremy, Josh, Allyn, did anybody know
I didn't read
about
this.
how silicon can enhance my batteries as
I'm
opposed
sorry,
to just
when you
my chest?
posted that, I
Silicone
was
can
doing a
enhance
24-hour red tube marathon.
Wow.
Why do you need a marathon for that? It's a streaming video service. You just access it. You are on your own personal
you just
24-hour
keep-
marathon.
You just keep clicking.
I get it.
You
I
just keep
get
clicking
it.
more videos. That's what you.
Nothing really interested me that day, so I just,
So apparently they claim to have surrounded silicon anodes for lithium batteries with a layer of graphene. This magical,
Yeah, so they don't glow.
technology, or
Yeah.
this magical,
Panacea.
yeah, this magical item, this thing that will fix all of our problems for computing and battery life.
No.
No,
It will give us a percentage increase, but
Okay.
I don't think it's going to solve everything.
So the
It just means the battery decays slower.
yeah.
So it's not so much you're going to get more battery life.
oh, but then Ken doesn't have to replace his MacBook Air every 18 months
So-
because the battery is
Exactly.
useless.
I've had this for 24 months so far.
So the thing,
Shut up.
the thing that kills lithium batteries is the anodes. They wear out.
Yep.
Oh, no.
There are videos.
What about the diodes?
If you dig, no, they're not diodes. If you dig
But
around
you stream a
YouTube,
lot of videos in your battery.
if you dig around YouTube, you can see some. There's a couple of videos floating around there about like under a very good microscope, very high power microscope, looking at the anode of a lithium battery while it's charging and discharging. You know those
Does it
little
look like that?
You know those? No, that's a cross section of it, but it looks kind of like. Okay, here's what it really looks like. You know those firecracker things from a long time ago? You'd light them, and it would be like a little black snake thing that would just
They
like.
still sell those.
Yeah,
They still sell those?
Oh,
I
hell
haven't seen
yeah.
them in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's basically what the anode looks like when
A
you're
little
cycling
poopy
it.
snake firework. Okay.
Yeah, right. So it expands and contracts at such a very large like proportion, right? That if you don't like protect that with something, it's going to degrade. Like it's going to break. It's going to stuff
Okay.
like that, right? So as that happens to it, that's what lowers your capacity because you're losing your anode. Like pieces of it are breaking off or degrading or that kind of thing. So the idea here is you're just trying to protect it.
With graphene.
In this case, with graphene, yeah, and that's if you can stop it from degrading, then
guess
it'll
that's
last
fine.
longer.
It's not.
Still
It's
don't
not a.
taunt
It's
it
not a
'cause it will
4-day
still
battery
burst into
life.
fire.
So
So it's kind of like lidocaine.
It's not numbing it.
Well, it lasts longer then.
No, Josh is talking
No,
about
it's
what
like
he
one of
was
those.
using.
Josh, why do you even
They
know?
shrink the cellulite?
Why do you even know doing that with? Never mind. Never mind.
He calls it the stranger.
The
Oh God,
the friendly stranger.
is this thing over yet?
It's where you
We
use.
got one more.
It's where you use your non-dominant hand.
One more podcast.
Thank you for the explanation, Alan.
Yeah,
I
like,
turned
really
Josh
needed it.
red.
No, like we all knew the joke, and Alan just had to go explain it for any mothers that
You
were
know,
watching
yes,
this
exactly.
show.
Cracked open
For
the
any
door, let me
mothers.
kick it down for you.
ASUS is introducing the STRIX GTX 980 Ti with the DirectCU 3. Is this the first DirectCU 3 we've seen?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh man, it's got to be better because it's more than 2.
Because it's the one more than the 2.
So this actually looks like
Got
a.
to be small.
It looks like or the
No?
graphics card is really
Yeah, it
big.
looks like
the
they made it
PCB
huge.
12
is
inches
tall.
long,
The
but
PCB
still.
is tall. No, look how high the PCB goes up above the bracket.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's right. So this video card looks like it could be damn impressive. I have no doubts that it will be a very good cooler. ASUS, the DirectCU 2 has been great. I don't know how much better DirectCU 3 will be, but it's got a bigger number, so it'll be better, at least a little bit. But it's going to have 2 modes in it, like a normal mode and an OC mode. And in the OC mode, which is what any sane person would actually use if you're buying a card like this, it will have a base clock of 1216 megahertz, which is 216 megahertz higher than the reference clock. That's a
pretty high jump.
21.6% increase
From the factory.
in clock speed out of the box.
Yeah. Well, there's no guarantee that it's going to go so much faster over that compared to like other, you know what I mean? But
Well,
yes, for those that aren't overclocking
If you're not going to do manual overclocking,
Right.
out of the box,
This is great.
21% faster than a normal 980 Ti, like a reference 980 Ti.
which is great.
Which is fantastic.
I just wonder how much more than a normal reference 980 Ti it's going to cost.
$30.
What?
$679.
Really?
Yeah. $679.
That's what the E EVGA ACX 2.0 SC Plus with backplate was on Amazon today.
yeah.
Yes.
So competition is driving this
But
price down.
that looks like it would cool a lot better.
But remember, at some point, it
Even
doesn't
than
matter.
that.
But remember, at some point, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
on
'cause you
on
can't-
the NVIDIA
'cause you
GPUs,
can't
you can't
overvolt.
you can't overvolt.
But what is the SC Plus EVGA, whatever base overclock?
I have no idea.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I don't
it's
remember offhand.
21%
Oh, it's
overclock.
nowhere near that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it might
I don't
be
think so.
1150 or something, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to. Ken, look that up, or somebody. Jeremy, Josh, somebody look that up. Chat room, look that up.
But for someone that wants to be able to have an overclocked 980 Ti and not mess
Yeah.
with the overclocking,
Yeah. Plus, it
looks
also
good.
will have the memory overclocked from 7 gigahertz to 7.2 gigahertz.
Core clock of 1102, boost of 1190.
So 1102. This is 106 megahertz or 100 plus megahertz higher base clock out of the box for this Strix card.
Yeah.
The other one. So
it's like double the overclock.
pulsating Strix LED. Josh makes a statement
Josh.
while adding style to your system. It has a GPU fortifier, which relieves physical stress around the GPU in order to protect it. That is this this kind of like red part of the back plate.
So did you go with the red for the
It's 12
ROG
inches
stuff?
long pulses and has stress relief.
Is that all
Correct.
ROG branding? Why it's red?
No, it's Strix.
Which is also red.
Sure,
Okay.
why not?
Okay.
Strix is
It's all
the
ASUS.
Owl brand.
Oh.
So this is the GPU fortifier. It's got a reinforcement frame on it. Auto extreme technology with super alloy power too. They still have some of their like
Lost in translation
Taiwanese
stuff.
features kind of hanging on.
Heart touching.
Yeah.
Rock solid.
Rear-facing power connector design with red-white LED and ensures easy and successful plug-in.
I like how
bet
I like
it
how
does.
I like how all those names are super descriptive, except and you can't see it on the stream.
Yeah,
but like
backplate.
the backplate is just labeled backplate. It's just one
Yeah,
word. Like,
just backplate.
no,
That's all
nothing
you need to
else. Not anodized
Super stiffened
aluminum.
PCB, yeah, whatever.
Yep. So it's not for sale yet. We're supposed to have one here in the next couple of days. So I'm looking forward to messing around with that. I've seen some. I don't know if it was like, hey, the Fury X is coming out. Let's get these retail cards out. But a lot of new 980 Ti's. Like we've got the ACX 2.0 SC Plus. Is that what it is?
I think that's a SC Plus. yeah.
Which is an impressive card. This one, and as a nice little transition to our picks of the week.
You in the hospital gown?
I think I messed it up. Hold on. Somebody say something interesting while I find the picks of the week that I missed. Anybody?
The details of my life are quite inconsequential.
Always fall back to
You don't know more than that?
But you're
No.
holding a wolf, not a cat. And why did you shave it like that?
All right. Anyway, so here's our picks of the week. I have another GTX 980 Ti that I haven't taken out of the box yet. It just showed up.
We did take it out of the box.
We did? Okay,
Yeah.
I lied. We took it out of the box, but it just showed up.
That's that one.
So this is the Zotac GeForce GTX 980 Ti Arcticstorm,
Yeah, that is a beast
and it's huge.
of a
first
card.
Of all. And let me go to the gallery.
It's a
over here.
briefcase.
It's not
With
a
a handle
briefcase.
on it.
It's not a briefcase,
Yeah.
but it might as well have one.
So this is a kind of one of those hybrid cooling systems. So if you look at the picture here, you'll see that it has triple fan setup, and then it also has some barbs here for water cooling as well.
And it's basically like a full coverage copper block, I think, that's just
Yeah,
built
like
into
it's similar in idea to what ASUS did with the Poseidon.
Yeah.
But this is a beefier implementation to use.
It
a
is
generic
very
term.
heavy card.
Right, it's heavy. The water block seems to cover everything.
It comes with a club.
Yeah, it does. Actually, I wonder if it's... So I will say that it has
Does
a
it give you a
backplate.
ticket to the Arctic to take care of some baby seals?
Yeah,
No,
there you go.
It comes with this
It has a
adjustable.
backplate that maybe you don't like the design, but I like that they did something to it.
Yeah.
Right? I think it looks neat.
It looks sharp.
There's a profile there of the cooler and the barbs, and then it comes with a club. It is to install
It's a
in.
prop.
Can't get away from the card.
It is.
It's telescoping too. Like it looks like a shower rod. Like you unscrew it, half turn, and it slides out more, so you can
So it is
And
to
you
put
can
in
hook up a
your.
9-volt battery.
Will you
to that.
let me explain what the hell this does?
No, it's more fun than imagining.
Turn off the squealing guy over there.
Alan?
It is a GPU. I can't remember what they called it. It is a, what do they call it? They call it a card
GPU
supporter.
retention
Card
device?
supporter.
It's a card supporter. It basically goes in there to help give the card support because it is so heavy.
Yeah.
It's a GPU bra.
It'll snap off.
Yes,
It'll
thank
snap
you.
off the
It is a
PCIe.
GPU brawl.
Wow.
It is a GPU brawl.
It probably-
Size
GPU
triple D.
brawl.
If you were transporting a case that had this in it,
You
and-
would not.
Well, first
You should
shouldn't.
take it
You should
out.
take that
You
card
should
out.
take it out.
Yeah.
But if you were and you put it down too hard, it'd probably snap your PCIe slot off of the motherboard.
What is wrong with him?
Probably would.
Never mind.
This card, I will say, is not
What?
$679. It's more like $750.
That's
So it's gonna
Listen.
be $100 more than the reference card.
Wait, a water block, a typical water block.
We need to take that apart and see if it is a full water block implementation or if it's like not quite as good. We'll see.
Okay, but like
We'll see.
I mean, typical water blocks for GPUs, like full coverage ones at least, run like over $100.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that bad of a price if you
Yeah.
consider what's in there.
Jeremy, what do you got for us for your pick?
Well, my 7950 came with a GPU bra as well. It was, again, a very heavy card that needed a little
Yeah.
bit of support. But I am amazed at the fact that there are already plans to mod your Oculus Rift. Microsoft put plans out for a CAD file, which if you have access to a CAD, you can then create this dual lens.
Who can
Which-
grind?
You can grind.
You can grind anything you want.
I mean,
Depends on the beat.
You're you're saying this as if like I'm just gonna go load this CAD file into my something.
if you
that I-
actually have,
Like
You
a
know.
3D printer?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So boom, and the two lenses that they use, you can buy straight off of Edmund's Optics.
Oh,
And
okay.
the difference that you see when you scroll down is pretty damn impressive. Now, it's a combination of these lenses and the software, which also comes from Microsoft. But really, all that little rainbow effect you get with the Oculus Rift goes away.
Huh.
So, but it looks
It's-
like the Oculus on the bottom row kind of alleviates the screen door effect some. So maybe
Yes,
some of that's on
it
purpose,
does.
I guess.
It's a bit of a trade-off,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you don't get that weird rainbow effect on the side.
Yeah.
And
Huh.
as much as I love the whole modding thing, it also took me by surprise that Microsoft Research used this to launched their Lens Factory program, which is apparently a whole bunch of CAD files on how to build a lot of various ocular devices. Telescopes, microscopes, glasses. If you've got a 3D printer, it's worth actually following the links through to the Microsoft research thing because there's actually a lot of stuff in there.
Ryan, we
Honestly,
can
I'm more
3D
interested
print.
in the Oculus Rift, but
No, I can't.
it's kind of neat to have if you've got the equipment to play with it.
Yeah, we can 3D print Ryan some glasses.
But I have glasses.
Oh.
Not
Right.
on because I'm wearing contacts, but I do have glasses. Pretty cool.
Yeah, give it a shot. See how it goes. You lucky bastards that have Oculuses.
Josh, you're up.
I am. Europe. Wrong continent.
Africa.
Right. You know what? Just released a massive new update with Project Cars. Fixes a bunch of bugs. You
Ooh.
can buy this. A lot of people were unhappy because they had a lot of bugs and they announced Project Cars 2. And people thought, well, they're just abandoning us.
I'm not recommending
But apparently that's not entirely the case. Version 2.0 was updated yesterday. Fixes a lot of things.
this. Like what?
I've
Give
done
me
some
one
karting.
thing.
What?
What's one thing it fixes that's cool?
Gosh. I need to read the...
He's got
rain.
nothing.
Rain is now slickier. Okay, moving
Exactly. No, I mean, like, some control options, some performance increases. There's like a list of 150 things. If you're looking at, at 1920 by 1200, this big, that they fixed in this particular update. So,
on. If you're
yeah.
looking at a 19 by 12 screen, it's about this
If
much.
you're
That
listening to this on audio,
long.
this is not helping.
Yeah.
That's true as well.
Okay.
We've got a patch for that as well.
Project Cars currently selling for $49.99.
It's too bad you didn't get it on Steam sale for $29 like I did.
What if I told you I got it for free? So,
Well, you're a better man than I, Gungadin.
all right.
Though you frayed the whip, I beat you.
I don't.
God,
don't
you
look at
people
me.
do not have
unwashed
any
heathens.
literature background.
Is that from the
Though
Odyssey or
you
the
frayed
Iliad?
the whip, I beat you. You're a better man than I, Gungadin. Education. I has it.
I can't take a guess because I'm afraid it might be racist. So I'm just not going to.
Rudyard
It was
Kipling.
a little bit racist, but
Google it.
Okay.
I'll get right on that. Anyway, Alan.
Yeah, so Jeremy, damn you, getting me like to look at another game that's gonna suck up my time or something.
You
But
should probably work instead.
yeah, but not your money.
so yes, but not my money since I already had Portal 2. So if you already have Portal 2, I think you're kind of a fool for not at least trying this for a few minutes. Stories of Mel, because I played it for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I was like just taken back by, wait, this is a mod? Like this is other people just put this together? Because I mean, it has pre-rendered cutscenes and stuff in it.
Yep.
It has like a bunch of just inside jokes and like stuff that if you've played the Portal games,
It's not an inside joke then.
well, I mean,
It's a portal. It's
stuff
it's
that's-
jokes based on the mod of
stuff
the
that's
game.
ad on the
wait.
screen.
Let's go with your like it's canon,
Oh,
Look
right?
at the ad on
like,
the screen.
like the stuff that they put in there is
With a different portal gun, too.
yeah, it's a 1950s or whatever
Oh,
portal
close
gun,
that.
right, or an old portal gun and stuff like that. But just the attention to detail they put into just like the level design and like the posters on the walls and stuff, and just like kept everything in that same kind of
yeah.
even making it a little bit more funny than the other ones. I think just the kind of the little comical touches they
I
put in some of the
didn't-
stuff.
based on
you
what
were
I was
only listening
listening.
to it. You were only
I was,
listening to
you're
it.
right.
But
I think you'd have to be really, really good to be better than Portal and Portal 2.
You should like
You'd
you
have
should
to
walk
be-
around in the first level and like read the stuff on the walls and stuff. Like there's a lot of nice touches in there. Put it that way.
It's worth the price you're going to pay to get it.
I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not trying to say it would be bad, especially at free. But if you're gonna try to
and
tell
it's
me
not
that
the
it's
first
on the
one they've
same
done.
level as Portal 2,
Isn't that the first one they've done?
No, if you follow the
snap.
project, like if you go to the actual webpage for Stories of Mel, they have done a couple of Portal stories before.
Oh,
Nothing of this level, like nothing to this great extreme.
so they were practice runs.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
and you probably will be disappointed if you go back and play it after this one. But yeah, this is pretty damn good work.
I like it. I like it. I mean, I probably will never have time to play it anymore. That might be something I could play on my laptop at the hospital.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's non-violent.
Quiet, baby.
so-
I'm playing Portal.
It was running at 4K.
How's that sound?
It
Does
was
that
running.
sound roll off the tongue?
It was playable on that 4K Seiki panel.
With the 750 Ti.
With the 750 Ti.
Were you running it at 4K?
Yeah.
Okay.
So your laptop should be able to handle it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. That's going to round up the show for us for this week, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Again, if you want to hang out with us, which I mean by when we record the show, go to pcper.com/live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Some other time in other time zones.
Yes.
We have a countdown timer on pcper.com on the right-hand side, so you'll have an idea of when that will actually be. And if you make sure you go to pcper.com/podcast, and you can find the links to the RSS files to download the MP3s. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel there, which makes sure you get all the video versions of our shows. And if you guys have any other questions or issues or concerns, you can leave comments on each of the podcast posts. We definitely read through those all the time. And Josh definitely reads them on YouTube as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you need to make sure you're following up there. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll probably be back next week. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malentano.
Bye.